even if you're an introvert, we are social beings. And so having that kind of isolation and alienation impacts our mental health, and that impacts our physical health. I think it's not just, but it's not just the alienation and isolation. Hello, and welcome back to another week of Calling in Sick. I'm your host, Alex Wilderson. So this week, we're going to throw it back to an oldie episode because I had 4 days of IVIG that led to a 10-hour ER stay. And right when I thought, man, when it rains, it pours, well, bam, life hit with another one. We had an attempted home invasion last night. So your girl has not slept all week. I have 0 spoons. My brain is not working. So I'm sorry, guys, but we are not releasing a new episode this week. What that does mean is that the next week's episode is going to be so good because you'll get to hear all the tea. I'll have my words strung together in a way that actually makes sense. And I will have better energy because today I feel like a wet rag of a human being. But what I do want to say is a huge thank you. Every single week, I know I ask you guys to like, follow, subscribe, and send this podcast to a friend. Last week, I had a handful of DMs of people saying that someone in their life had sent them my podcast and my Instagram page, and that's how they found me, and that they were feeling seen or heard for the first time in their life, finally connecting with someone else their age or around their age with a chronic illness. Getting those messages is like winning the lottery. It brings me so much joy. Ask St. Cooper. I'm like screaming with excitement, and he's always wondering if something horrible has happened because I'm being loud. And I just got to tell him that something great happened. So thank you guys for sending this around, helping this podcast and family grow. I love that I get to meet all of you guys. This has been the biggest treat of my life the last year. So massive thanks. And because I want to say thank you back to you, my 2 picks this week both already have discount codes. The first one is for the Mayfair group. Amazing sweatsuits. They're phenomenal. I have a 15% code for you. It's Alexandra15. Applies at checkout. They're about to drop a new line, and it is so fucking cute. Their athleisure line. So go check it out, and hopefully we can be matching Spoonie sisters. My second pick of the week for you guys, and this one is what is holding me together this week, is from Intelligent Change. It's the Intelligent Change 5-minute gratitude journal. Well, actually, it's like anything from Intelligent Change, but you guys know that that's my go-to item of choice from there. Alexandra 10 for 10% off at checkout. Link in the description below. Also will be posted on Instagram with live links. One pro tip for the gratitude journal. I was listening to Adam Grant, I don't remember his name. Listening to him on an Instagram reel the other week, and he said that he started adding, during his gratitude journaling practice, something that he was doing for others. So I started adding 1 to 3 things every single day that I had done in service of others, or 1 to 3 things at the start of the day that I wanted to do in service of others. That has leveled up the gratitude journaling so much because it took me from taking stock of my life and being really thankful for the good moments or getting through the hard moments. And it made me step out of my own shoes and remember that I am but a wee dot on the giant canvas that is this world. And that there are so many other people, so many other lives, so many other journeys going on around me, all at the same time. And we never know what's going on in their world. So if we can spread a little bit of joy and pay it forward, I think it always comes back around. So give it a whirl and let me know what you think about it. And because I don't want to leave you hanging, in case you have an infusion week or are in a flare-up week and just need something to chill the F out, it's Bravo. But it's probably the #1 show on Bravo that is the converter. And by that, I mean it takes people that are anti-Bravo and makes them Bravo fans. Maybe even just for only that show or that series of shows. But that show works 9 times out of 10. St. Cooper got hooked on Bravo because of this show. I hope you're at the edge of your seat right now. I'm really hyping this one up. It's Below Deck. And specifically, it's Below Deck Down Under with Captain Jason. We love him. He is, praise be, like the world's ideal boss. Cool, calm, and collected. Expects a lot of his team, is fair, and wants to have everybody achieve their goals and have room for growth. We adore him. He also has no problem taking the trash out too, which is the number one thing I respect in leaders, is when they are willing to do the dirty work and the glory work. So if you need it this week, Below Deck on Bravo. You can find it on Peacock and Hulu. Pro tip, Peacock's $6. So if I was you and you were trying to figure it out, go to Peacock. But Hulu, if you're listening for some godforsaken reason to this podcast, I love you. I've been a loyal customer since I was in, I think, 8th grade. I used to buy iTunes gift cards, I'm pretty sure. No. I used to buy get visas so that I could pay for Hulu when I was in middle school and high school, so I could watch TV on my way old, those clamshell MacBooks. I've always been a TV girly. It's because I've always been a sleepy girly because I'm chronically ill. Okay, and on that note, I will leave you guys with this old episode. I hope you enjoy. I can't wait to catch up the next week. I have so much tea to tell you, but I only have enough energy for this little stint right now. So I love you. Thanks for calling in sick with me every week. You guys are truly amazing, amazing human beings. You inspire me every single day, and you bring me a lot of joy, light, and laughter. Happy Monday. This week, we are going to be diving into the chronic illness identity. What it is, why it's so damn hard to accept that we're chronically ill, the whole grief curve, and then diving into some tips and tricks that I've gathered along the way as I've moved through and yo-yoed around the grief and acceptance curve. Yeah, I struggle with my mental health. We're going to dive right on into it. Last 2 months have been a little tricky. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and my depression has gone from 24, 72-hour bouts where I'm just in bed, not responding to any text messages, just trying to grit through it, let the waves crash and move on, to literally nonstop for 2 months. And it has been incredibly overwhelming. I have not faced depression like that in my entire life. I've also had rolling panic attacks during this period, which has been pretty rough. Part of that is medications changing. Part of that is life. Part of that is my health being really wackadoo right now. Labs coming back really poorly with signs of another autoimmune disease, and it just all gets exacerbated. Depression for me is I become a shell of who I am. I can put on the mask and be chipper, normal, positive Alex, but for some reason I get really hard on myself about depression, and I can say I'm depressed, but I don't share with people what it feels like to me or what the experience is like for me. So very rawly, I figured I would share a little bit in hopes that it makes one of you guys who's listening and maybe struggles with depression not feel so alone. So, depression for me is a feeling of heaviness that I can't shake. I lose absolute motivation. I have to time block my schedule just so I get simple to-dos done, like brush my teeth and wash my hair. I become incredibly forgetful. I realized that has crossed over from just forgetting to do certain to-dos, like move the laundry or call your doctor or go get your labs drawn, send a response email to one of the people in your network, to literally me not communicating to anyone in my circle. I accidentally left my uncle on red for 3 weeks, and that's very out of character. For my family, I usually am hyper responsive no matter what, and I think that was a little wake up call for me of being like, okay, I think I need to reassess and face the facts and reality that I'm pretty depressed right now, and it's really starting to impact every aspect of my life. Do you ever feel like your morning cup of coffee leaves you jittery and uncomfortable? Because me too. And y'all know I am a coffee lover. And a lot of us probably rely on that cup of coffee to bring us that first sip of joy in the morning, or perhaps the joy that carries us through the entire day. But a lot of different coffee brands are super harsh on our stomachs, and if you're chronically ill like me, that does not tango very nicely and leaves you with digestive issues, bloating, and sometimes a mid-morning crash. And that's why I'm excited to partner with Life Boost Coffee. It's 100% organic, clean, single origin sourced, but most importantly, low acid, which means it's a lot more gentle on our stomachs, but still has a smooth and delicious taste. So beyond the fact that the coffee tastes delicious, One of my favorite things about the brand is that they test for over 450 toxins, which gives me peace of mind that even if I go for that second, third, maybe fourth cup of coffee in a day, I'm putting good things in my body that aren't going to make me feel sick later. Right now, Life Boost Coffee is offering an exclusive 10% off. So head on over to lifeboostcoffee.com and use Alexandra10 for a 10% discount at checkout. But if this is your first time purchasing from the company, waving arms, use the link in the description. You can get up to 58% off. And if you are a repeat customer, use the subscription link to get up to 48% off for your purchase. But hurry, because this deal is only available for a limited time. So chug the last of your coffee and go restock on Life Boost. I definitely self-isolate. I don't really share, as I said earlier, I don't really share how heavy it can be. I already think I deal with feeling like a burden to friends and family with my health alone, and especially when it's been like a year-long flare-up after a spinal injury. And I know like my community, my circle is probably burnt out a little bit or fatigued from having to be support. And I don't want to add something else onto other people's plates or have them worry about me. And I'll dive into that more in this episode too, about like how to navigate that. One of my friends today, I just love this. She was like, okay, so if I was saying this, what would you say to me? And it kind of was like an aha moment of, you should never feel like a burden because of your health. Your friends and family that love you will always show up for you. And if they need a break, they'll take a break and let you know that. Like, those are the people that love you and are in your corner. And so hearing that was good and refreshing, and gave me some peace of mind to not be so hard on myself and to not assume that everyone is over it, and that people in my life still want to support me because they love me and they want to see me healthy and doing better. So if that resonates with you right now, I hope so. And if it doesn't resonate with anyone else, I am saying it out loud so I can have it stick in my brain. Yes, that is it. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about with the chronic illness identity is the life changes. So you start having symptoms. Maybe it's a slow burn and all of a sudden it's overwhelming, or maybe it's you wake up one morning and life never goes back to how it was before. Or maybe you were like me and you were born with it, and that's a whole nother story and cadence of navigating a chronic illness identity. Regardless, you have these symptoms that become so debilitating that you have to make priorities in your life, and that is socializing, work, family, and other. And you can't do it all. Personally, when I am in big flare-ups and navigating that, the only two things I can manage besides my health are work and family, and that's like immediate family only. That has obviously repercussions, and you can feel incredibly isolated and alienated. And we're human. We are social beings. Even if you're an introvert, we are social beings. And so having that kind of isolation and alienation impacts our mental health, and that impacts our physical health. I think it's not just, but it's not just the alienation and isolation. All of a sudden you are forced to make decisions about missing events, and not just small events like going out to the bar on a Friday or Saturday, or missing a concert, or having to miss a friend's birthday. Like big events, weddings, funerals, graduations, baby showers. It's really tough. And that, I think, at first can be incredibly overwhelming. You feel like a failure of a friend, for sure. And I think when you're younger, it's less likely that your friends or your circle have experienced something like a chronic illness diagnosis, where they might not be as understanding on why you have to make that decision. And that ultimately does kind of cause and lead to how chronic illness is the greatest filter in life. You will shed relationships. I won't sugarcoat that. And in doing so, your kind of like identity of yourself, or how you perceive yourself and how you value yourself, shifts too. I think it's so easy when you're having a bad flare day, high symptoms, you're struggling to keep your hand on all the different boiling pots on the stove, and you start scrolling on Instagram and seeing the highlight reel of other people your age that are healthy and they're getting promoted at work and having babies and getting married and taking really amazing trips. And it's so easy to be jealous and angry that you can't do that, and rightly so, because it sucks. Like, we shouldn't have to be missing out on those things at any age, but especially in your 20s or your teen years and your 30s. Like, that is when these big moments in life happen that we're told time and time again make life special. And so to feel like you're missing out on those things can feel like you aren't allowed to, and you've been handcuffed or imprisoned in a life that is no longer meaningful. And that only gets further underlined or underscored by the fact that we live in a world that celebrates and puts value on our productivity. And so it's this kind of like cascading or cycle, self-fulfilling prophecy cycle of feeling like you can't be enough, watching and comparing yourself not being quote unquote enough, or doing the things that everyone else is doing at your age and stage in life. And that's when the mental health stuff slips in. That's when anxiety gets bad, panic attacks get heavy, depression all of a sudden slips into really dark depression. And so it's important, as you get symptomatic, get diagnosed, start changing your life to accommodate this huge thing, to find people that speak that same language. And honestly, that is part of the reason why I built this community. I said it earlier and I'll say it again, but the chronic online community is one of the most beautiful places. And that is simply because most of us wear many masks as a chronic illness person. We get to and have the freedom to take that mask off when we are talking to other people that have similar battles. Now, of course, there are different stages of chronic illness heaviness or autoimmunity heaviness, from diagnoses to flare-ups to whatever. But finding people that are in that kind of similar bucket to you can be so incredibly validating in our lived experience. And also, finding people that have different diseases can make us have perspective on the symptoms we deal with, on navigating our diseases, and in managing it all. I think it's a community that only gives back to you as you give into it. And then there's the shedding that happens with that, where your circle has to change because there's going to be people that cannot show up for you. And that could be because they haven't been faced with something like this before, so they don't understand how to navigate it. And when you're first getting into this, it's so hard to communicate what you need. And I've caught myself today and in reflection, not giving people in my life the grace that maybe they deserved, because I realize now I wasn't communicating exactly what I needed. I can also give myself the grace that I didn't have the words for that because it was so much and so overwhelming. I didn't have the luxury to really dive into how to best set up my support system to support me. I think I've shared a story before about a friend that disappointed me when I was going through Cytoxin and really stopped showing up. And we kind of had this like fizzle out of our friendship. And it's been quite a few years. But I had kind of an aha moment a week or two ago where I realized, I don't think I actually ever told her what she could have done to make me feel more supported. I just was frustrated she couldn't read my mind, that she wasn't doing research on her own to figure out how to support someone like me. And I also was downplaying 100% what I was dealing with and making light of symptoms and medications just to try to normalize it all, which there's no shame in that either. I was 23, 24 when I got diagnosed. All that's to say is we ourselves need to give ourselves empathy and also give those in our lives empathy. But there's a line. Know when to give empathy, and also know when that person is not going to be able to support you in this chapter or aspect of your life. And just because someone can't support you in your health aspect doesn't mean that they can never be your friend again. It means that they cannot be a really deep friend that's going to be there for you in the hardest hards. But maybe they're just a surface level friend, and that is certainly okay. So I highlighted it at the top of the episode. I struggle with anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. And I talked a little bit about it a couple minutes ago. Isolation, feeling alienated, losing friends, maybe losing family too, can feel heavy and it impacts our mental health. I think that there's a couple straws I want to pull out on this topic of why this impacts our mental health so deeply, in hopes that you hear this and go, oh, okay. If I can label it and understand why that's making me feel so sad or so anxious, maybe it'll help you lessen that load a little bit. I think a lot of us go through the process of symptoms to diagnosis, diagnosis to disease management, being misunderstood by medical providers, by coworkers, by friends and family, and also by ourselves. And that kind of, well, I'm going to use gaslighting, but also I think it's just questioning because of lack of understanding compounds. If you're anything like me, once you get told something enough times, you start to believe it yourself. In health, when you're told enough times it's just anxiety, how are you not going to develop anxiety? Have we thought about it that way before? If you haven't, spend a little time, let that percolate, let that seed grow. Of course, we're going to start feeling like we are just anxious. We're going to start questioning our symptoms. And even as you move through these diagnoses, I am 25 years into being autoimmune. And if I've had one day or two good days in a row, I will start thinking, and this is just embedded ableism, I'm sure, is this all in my head? Do I actually struggle with chronic pain? That seems kind of funny to me. Am I actually fatigued or am I just tired? And I question myself. And that's not super healthy at all. And sometimes it takes just one symptom acting up to make me go, oh yeah, I do struggle with this. This is real. I am living this experience. And that's that. Second thing I wanted to highlight was there's a perception of what sick looks like. And that is doubled down in media, movies, television. I grew up when House was really popular. And if you had a complicated medical history, that show told you that there was always going to be a team that believed you and was going to do anything and throw everything to make sure that you felt better. That is really not the case in our world in medical society. If you find a doctor that is like that, hold on for dear life and never let that doctor go. I feel very lucky that I have a team that can be like this, but that is not usual. And that usually takes years of dating different doctors to find the right one for you. Because during the symptoms to diagnosis stage, which we know can take 5 to 7 years, and you're met with so many doctors that tell you, no, I don't think I can help you. No, this is just in your head, or you're exaggerating. The list goes on. We start thinking that you have to look sick in a certain way in order to get care. And I did a post on my TikTok the other week of like doctor-approved OOTDs, kind of in jest, but also very much serious. That looking sick enough to get care also goes to looking sick enough to get support. I know how confusing it can be for an outsider to see us one day looking fine, being fine, feeling awful, or looking awful, feeling fine, and how hard that must be for them to really understand and keep a pulse on how we're doing. So I think a lot of us probably feel like if we don't look a certain way, we won't get care and support. The next kind of big string I want to talk about is self-worth. We live in a world that celebrates working really, really hard and being productive. However much you can be productive, the better off you are as a human being. That is your inherent value. I am also a type A person, and I think a lot of us are. I hold myself to that kind of standard. That internalized culture is in me. Breaking that and learning that rest is productive for my health was very challenging. And it literally took me redefining rest is productive for my health to that phrase instead of I need to rest to feel better, for it to start to make sense to me. So take it if you want, leave it if you don't. And then last with the chronic illness identity of the why it's so damn challenging. Once you get into the sick human world and pool, you will see that there are a lot of different buckets of people. And I'm not talking like positive and negative. I'm talking healing modalities. And for some reason, we live in such a polarizing world right now where if you take one approach that is working for you, the other side, in quotes, thinks that you're stupid or doing it wrong. And sometimes people want to tell you that. I like to think that people come from a good place and have positive intent. And perhaps they're trying to open your eyes or open a door for you into something that could be helpful for you. And that's wonderful. But there's a way to do that, I think. And I think that starts with not judging others by how they are handling their health. I'll use myself as an example. I'm someone who blends all of the different approaches. I do use Western medicine. I believe in science. I use functional medicine. I believe that there's root causes that can put this shit into remission. I believe that energy healing is a real thing. I am also religious and pray and think that that will also help me. And I also use Eastern medicine, and I believe that that truly works too. And yet, there are people that still want to tell me that I'm not doing it the right way. And I think that probably resonates with a lot of people. I remember posting a video online about the spoon theory, and I think it was the first video I ever posted that went viral. And for some reason, probably because I'm a type A person and struggle with defining my worth by what others think of me, apparently, I had someone comment, "I think you would feel better if you weren't drinking out of a plastic cup and stopped getting Botox or bleaching your hair." And sure, maybe they meant well, but damn, it came across so aggressive and it so hurt my feelings. And I really thought, that's not helping me feel better. That's just being rude. So while you're navigating your identity and how you want to address your health, let all of those naysayers, haters, rude commenters, throw them out the window. You don't need their opinion on how you're doing, because what you're doing is enough, and it's what you're supposed to be doing right now. I truly believe God, the universe, whatever resonates with you, they put the right things in front of you at the right time. And so if you're not supposed to be doing functional medicine right now, or you're not supposed to be doing Western medicine right now, or you're not supposed to be doing energy healing right now, then you're not supposed to be doing that right now. There's a time and a place for everything, and I truly believe that we walk through the door to each of those things when we are supposed to. So hold that close, as close as you can, and know that you're doing just enough. So that was pretty long-winded, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it's so challenging finding your new identity when you're chronically ill for so many reasons. Your life literally gets flipped 180. There are mental health implications. We have to redefine our self-worth along with all of that. And then we can get kind of villainized for how we're doing it anyway. It feels like sometimes you can't turn the right way. And maybe that's part of the chronic illness identity and mental health aspect too, is shedding those people-pleasing ways and maybe caring a little bit less that other people are going to have different opinions than you. Or maybe it's celebrating that people have different opinions than you and being curious, and then not taking it to heart when someone delivers that in a way that is not so palatable. And there's 100 million other reasons why this is really challenging and a topic that is important. But one thing that's really helped me is something my dad taught me, that chronic illness identity and shifts that go with it are so similar to the cycles of grief. So the cycles of grief are, first off, denial. So you think this can't be happening, this can't be true. And throughout this episode, you've already heard me say that even in today's time, I have days where I still think, this can't be real. Anger is the second one. If you've seen any of my recent posts, I have done plenty of them about how freaking angry I can get about being sick. And there is every reason and every right in the book to be angry. Now, does that do us well for the long term? No. Should we sit with it and honor that feeling? Yes. Should we hold on to it forever? Definitely no. But once you move past that, we're going into bargaining. That is when I'm like, dear Lord, please, for the love of you, make this go away. Make this better. Make me have a magic wand. Give me that silver bullet. I will do anything. And I'm sure many of us have grappled with that. Begging the universe, begging God, begging our body to listen, and that we will be good, we'll eat right, we'll call our grandma every single day, we will do anything. And that also is something that needs to be honored, but it's not a place to sit for too long. The next stage is depression. And I'm not even going to say that is a place that can't be sit in too long, because there are so many different aspects to that wheel. Our brain chemicals change from our medicine. You can be in that yo-yo for quite some time. But there are tools and tips I'm going to share to hopefully help you move from that into acceptance, which is the final stage of grief. Because we're chronically ill, and because things percolate left and right and out of nowhere sometimes, it is not linear. You aren't sliding back when you go back to denial or anger. It's just hopping back and forth. And that's okay. And you might hop to denial and right back to acceptance the next breath. It doesn't have to be in this perfect cycle. But I think if you can take a step back and contextualize it in that way, I think it makes it feel more palatable, that you won't be feeling how you're feeling forever. During my best physical periods and my best health periods, my mindset was right. Absolutely right. I woke up every single morning and I said, this is the best I've ever felt. And I believed it. And my body listened to me. So there is something to be said about moving through these stages and cycles of grief, because our body does listen. I think, personally, argue and let me know below if you don't think so. But I think there's a mind-body connection there. And so I hope in me saying this, you are getting some hope that it will get better in one way or another. Yes, it's lifelong, but no, it isn't always the worst thing in the world. So the tips I have, let's dive on in. First and foremost is compassion for yourself and for others. Not every moment is a teaching moment for ourselves or for others. And what I mean by saying that is something can happen and maybe there's not a lesson to be extracted out of that. Maybe that moment is just supposed to be honored and sat with and then released. And part of that is just maybe that day is hitting you hard and you gotta just sit with it. And that is okay. Give yourself compassion to feel that way. You don't have to judge yourself. It's okay. And it's also okay to then release that and remember that you also have good things in your life. And I'm not trying to be toxic positivity here and saying like it's always could be worse, but I think it is good to remember that yes, it sucks when you feel bad and it will get better. For others, if they say something or do something that is hurtful to you or painful, I think it's really important to take a step back. With chronic illnesses, we are on medications that make our hormones fluctuate and our brain chemistry fluctuate pretty heavily. So I am a huge advocate for giving anything at least a few hours to sit on and really digest. And then reminding ourselves that there's different responses to these things. We can be compassionate and assume positive intent and understand that maybe this person didn't mean for something to come across a certain way. We can be angry. And sometimes we have every right to be angry, and it's okay. We can be funny and gloss it over, or we can try to teach. And one of those is right for every moment. And it's up to you to decide which one you have the spoons and energy for, and two, which one do you think long-term is going to be the best for you in that relationship. And speaking of relationships, let's just put it out there in the open and call a spade a spade. You're going to disappoint people because you're chronically ill. You're going to miss things. You're going to say things that your circle is not going to understand because they do not have a shared experience with you to the degree of what you are experiencing, no matter how hard they try. Unless they are also, the exact genetic makeup of you or doing the exact things in their life, have the exact same relationship, same diseases and same symptoms. But I don't really think that sounds that realistic to happen. So just know that will happen and give yourself grace that you're going to have heartache associated with that. You're going to lose friends. Maybe you're going to have some friction between family members or even isolation from family members. And no, you're not alone in that. I would be a betting woman here, and I think I would make my money. All of us have experienced this to some degree. We're in it together. And that's why this leaning into this community is so important, because connecting with others and hearing shared experiences are the same. It's validating. It makes you feel not so crazy, not so in your own head about something. That's pretty helpful on the mental health side. In order to not disappoint people as much, I found that communicating my boundaries and my needs are very, very important. Waving my arms, no one can read your mind. They're not going to pick up on the signals that you think might be so obvious. They're not going to be as educated as you on your disease and what that looks like for you. And we're snowflakes. So one disease, even if they are researching, might look really, really different for you and what they're reading online or their friend of a friend that has the same disease as you. And communicating boundaries can be really, really overwhelming and anxiety driving. But no, future you is going to be super, super grateful. And honestly, that relationship is probably going to do a hell of a lot better if you can be clear and don't have to put so much emotional charge behind a boundary. Boundaries can look like, hey, you can't expect me to respond to a phone call past 5 p.m. at any day. I'm dead tired at that time of day, and my brain can't put words together appropriately to respond to anything, not even a simple thing. So don't expect that of me, please. That's a really fair boundary. Another boundary would be if someone does say something offensive, calmly, after the few hours of digestion, saying, when you said X, I feel Y. Then decide. Teach? Humor? Compassion? Anger? Which one do you need to say? Which one do you need to feel? Which one would be beneficial in that moment for that relationship? I have found that when I communicate a boundary in a time of friction, I like to explain the why. And I have found that explaining the why helps others maybe say okay to that boundary a little bit easier. Why boundaries are important though. You and your health, physical and mental, are so important. Every single day is one more day to try to feel a little bit better. So tools for communicating that this is your number one priority. Asking for help. We all hate to do it, but it's something we got to learn when we're chronically ill. My favorite tool is the S's for support. Shit talking, solutions, or sympathy. I have a podcast, so clearly I am a verbal processor, if that's not abundantly clear. When I have a situation I'm facing, be that a new piece of news, friction in a relationship, a problem at work I'm trying to problem solve, I always tell my husband, well, maybe not always, I try to always tell my husband, hey, I really need to shit talk. You got time? Or, hey, I just need some sympathy and love. Can I tell you about this? And can you just tell me that you love me and that I'm okay and I'm right? Or solutions. Hey, I don't know what to do in this situation and I value your opinion. Can you help me think through this? I am open to your suggestions. That allows the person that you're turning to know how to support you best. Because no one can read our minds, like I've said. No one. No matter how lovely that could be at times. And I think you'll find that adding that little tool to your toolkit really allows you to have such better support verbally or even physically than ever before. When I learned that tool, it was life-changing, truly, for Cooper and I in navigating my health. The next thing is the subtle art of not giving a fuck. My mom has this great saying, which is NOPA, not our problem anymore. So if someone says something that does not resonate with you, i.e., someone in the comments on that one post telling me that I just am a failure because I used a plastic cup and had Botox and bleached my hair, that's a NOPA that's their feelings and their opinion on me. It's not my problem. It also has zero impact on how I live my life. I'm not going to change what I'm doing because of some internet troll who's saying something rude to me and not saying it in a kind way either. So learning to release those moments and not give a fuck, pretty helpful. Something we are all working on probably all the time. I am not a queen of this at all. I'd actually say areas of improvement, that is a massive one for me because I dwell, I internalize, I've got anxiety and I replay scenarios in my head thousands of times until I feel okay enough with the situation. Hope that resonates with some of you guys. Otherwise, I probably need a therapy appointment. The next tip is parsing out and analyzing your circle and identifying who can be there for what. Not everyone can be there for everything. That will burn out a relationship like that. So you got to figure out and identify who can be there for you for what. So the kind of options I've categorized are physically being there for you, emotionally being there for you, spiritually being there for you. So physically is someone that can come sit on the couch with you if you don't feel good, can drive you to an appointment, can take care of your dogs for you if you're in the hospital. An emotional support person is someone that can hold you while you're crying, can be the call when you're having a hard go. It's probably also the person you want to call when something amazing happens. It's the person that makes you feel okay inside. The next one is spiritual, and that's when you feel lost in that grief cycle. That person always has the right words to say to you that make you breathe a little bit easier. And I think the way to figure out which one each person in your life is to think about when you've turned to them for things before and they have shown up for you in that way. Did it make you feel really good? Or did it make you feel kind of uncomfortable and like, maybe that's not their forte? Should be actually it's a pretty easy tell, in my opinion. Where it gets blended is when I think our support circle communicates that they want to be there for everything. But I think I've learned this year that no one can do that. And that is part of our job as a chronic illness baddie, to know that and not let that person burn out as a support for us. And that is unfortunately kind of our responsibility, because otherwise there are some friends that want to do the world for you and want to move mountains because they hate that you're going through this. It's usually the very empathetic friends, and you got to protect them because they just want the best for you and you don't want them to have to hurt because of it all. And I guess then maybe the last bucket is chronic. People that are in this community. These are the people you can turn to and release the really heavy thoughts that only other chronic illness people are going to understand what you mean by them. Like having dark humor. There's one friend and I that send each other these dark humor memes about really heavy depression. And I always think like, good Lord, if I sent this to my sweet mother, she'd probably have a conniption and think that I needed to go to a psychiatric ward or on watch. But with her, it's like, we both know we don't need to be concerned. It's how we both process and grieve dealing with depression. And it makes me feel good that we can do that. So the chronic community is there for all maybe the things that are too uncomfortable for the healthy people. Maybe that's the best way to put it. And sometimes that can extend out of the chronic community. That can be the support team that you have. Like my husband is also in that bucket. He's an honorary chronic illness baddie. So find those lanes for each of the people in your life and then direct them into that naturally by leaning on them during each of those times where you need them, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or chronically. I also think it's really, really important to identify the people that can show up for you and the people that can't. And this is a new thing that I'm processing. But people that cannot show up for you with your illness, kind of grappling with the concept of, are they a bad friend then? Should a friend have to show up for you for your good and your bad? I think a true friend, yes. I also think you can have surface level friends that don't have to be in the weeds of it all. And they can be someone that it's lighthearted when you go see them and you can talk about college or traveling or whatever, and it could be your escape friend where you don't have to think or talk about being chronically ill and how it impacts all of your life. And maybe that's the kind of delusional thinking or magical thinking that I'm having, but maybe it's okay that we have people like that in our lives. And maybe honestly, that's good for us to have people like that in our lives, because then we're able to step out of our own reality and understand that we do have good things still going on, that we are privileged by having access to medical care, that it truly could be worse, and that's not me being toxically positive. It's a nice reality check. It's also a nice reality check to remember that other people have things going on in their lives that will be just as consuming for them, whether we think it's as hard or not. Because it really doesn't matter what we think is hard or not. What matters is their experience. Just like what matters for us is our experience. Having someone tell us, I don't think you should be in pain from that endometriosis, is bullshit. It's also bullshit for us to tell someone else, you have a massive cut on your finger, you're not allowed to be in pain. Let's lead with empathy and compassion. My last tool is just finding help, whether that's a therapist, someone at your church, a spiritual guru, or a chronic illness support community. If you don't want to join a support group, you can also just slide into people's DMs. Like 5 of my chronic illness best friends slid into my DMs randomly years ago, and they were like, hey, I saw your post about having vasculitis. I have MS. I have a different form of vasculitis. I have rheumatoid arthritis. What's up? And it was super organic. I don't know why, but like you can get away with that in the chronic illness space. Maybe it's weird in any other kind of niche group, but it is so welcomed here. All of us are just trying to find others that understand the same language that we're speaking. So don't be nervous about it. If you saw someone that you liked what they were posting online or resonated with you, slide into their DMs and let them know. Because chances are that 1 is going to make them probably feel really good. And 2, you might make a new friend and might be a best friend. And last but not least, my biggest tip if you are chronically ill is to be curious. Because even in the darkest times, when you're fearing things left and right, if you can be curious and maintain some level of hope, you can get through this. And maybe you need to listen to that 20 times. So replay the last 15 seconds. Let's go. You can do this. Being curious allows you to be open-minded to new healing modalities, to meet new friends, to meet new people that might support you in new ways. It allows you also to be more open to processing your own feelings and emotions about your journey and your diagnosis. And ultimately, what that unlocks is healing. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, yes. Being curious is a godsend. Sure, it's a luxury, but you know what? We spend a lot of time with high symptoms, probably laying in bed. So instead of laying there scrolling on Instagram, being pissed that we can't do something else, be curious. Maybe that means going on the Instagram search page, new hobbies, and seeing what's out there. Maybe it means seeing someone at physical therapy using a cane that looks our age and saying, hey, I have a dynamic disability too. I'm Alex, nice to meet you. Just opening the door in different ways in our lives to new opportunities and new paths. I found that in times where I can do that, and I know that that's a luxury to be able to do that, I've allowed myself to feel better. And part of that is giving ourselves the grace and the permission to feel a little bit better. You don't have to look sick in the way that everyone else tells you to. You can show up exactly how you are. We can do the NOPA with how other people perceive and take in how we look and how we're supposed to be sick. And if we're curious, we can move through those moments that are a little bit harder. Well, I hope that this very rambling, tangent-filled episode of Chronic Illness Identity was somewhat digestible for you guys. And just know that I'm growing and learning too. So if there's something I said in here that resonated, I'm so happy. If there's something I said in here that did not resonate, let me know. I want to grow too, and maybe I have some old way thinking or some really internalized ableism thinking about different aspects of processing and managing and accepting a disease, dealing with mental health and physical health, communicating and relationships. But we're all in this together, and we're just trying to get better. One step at a time, one day at a time, one Monday at a time, one calling in sick at a time. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of Calling in Sick. As a reminder, I would love for y'all to like, follow, subscribe, save, share with a friend, do all of the things. It truly helps grow this community, and it helps these episodes reach the people that need them the most, whether that's for an educational piece, to have a little laugh, or to not feel so alone. As a reminder, Calling in Sick sits on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can find your listens. From the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for calling in sick with me every Monday. It's been an honor and a pleasure so far, and I can't wait to continue. I can't wait to continue building this community with y'all. Love you.